Tip number 1, on a tab, you can right click it in your stash tab and you can set an affinity. What this actually does is make it where things automatically drop in there. This is an organizational tool. So for instance, if I'm in a tab and I shift click like my currency, it's just going to drop into the tab, right? But if I have another tab, let's say tab number 2, and I have this marked as currency and I save it like that, then I go back to tab number 1. When I shift click, it's not going into this tab, it's actually going into the tab automatically that it is set. This way, what you can do with this is you can organize all of your different tabs. This one has my delirium stuff. This one has my unique items. This one has my gems, and you can have things automatically go into those tabs. Another thing you can do, if you have the 300 coins you might have got with the cheapest purchase of the early access, what I recommend you spend it on is stash tabs that help you with organizing. For instance, currency here is a nice one that will automatically work for currency. So you can set the affinity in here, and then when you just click items in, it will have a nice organization of your currencies. Tip number 2, trading is very strong in this game. If you're not playing like SSF or a solo cell phone style of gameplay, then trading quite important. Premium stash tabs can be set to public and used to list your items on the trade website. So what that means is if you have premium stash tab you got from the store, you can right click on this, click select to public, and then you can set each price individually, negotiable, or exact price. So very often what you're going to do is you're going to have a tab, you're going to set exact price on all 2 exalts or whatever your price is going to be, 1, 2, 5. Then whenever you're in the map or in the campaign, anytime you grab any item and you don't know what it's worth, you're just going to shift click it in here and it automatically lists these onto the trade website. If someone is looking for an item specifically like yours, they'll message you. You'll then right click on the name, invite them to the party. They'll join your hideout. You'll trade them once you have the item in your inventory and you can sell it. So this is how you actually engage in trading. Now on the other side of this, you can go pathofexile2.com, click on the trade button. This will open up the trade website for Path of Exile 2. You can then look at the filters and add whatever you want. So for instance, if I'm looking for, let's just say here, I'm looking for a bow, okay? And then what I want on the bow is to have physical damage. I could then type in physical and I could click on increase physical, and then I'm going to search for this. And now all the bows that have increased physical will be listed here as well as their price. You can sort this by either stat by clicking on the stat itself, and it will sort by the highest. Now the highest physical damage will show up, or by price if I want to sort by the lowest or highest price. When you find an item you like, you can click on Direct Whisper for the person. This is going to send them a message. Hello there, I would like to buy your item for 999 million mirrors. At this point, they'll probably invite you to a party. You accept it. You will go to them. The standard practice is you go to their hideout. Once they're in their hideout, wait for them to trade, as once they are ready to sell the item and have it in their inventory, they will then trade you, and then you accept the trade, pay them the agreed upon price, and then go from there. So do you see these like statues here? This right here is in the Spires of Deshar. If you continue to progress through this map, this is again in Deshar, this is in Act 2 as well as Act 4, you're going to find many things you could click on to do like voice lines, for instance. You're going to find this, the Sisters of Garakan, or however you say that. When you actually click on this, you will gain a permanent 10% lightning buff to your character, lightning resistance buff to your character. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to skip this one. The only thing is it will activate these statues, and these statues will begin to attack you, and anywhere you go that has these statues, they're going to become alive now. But just found this out today, as a matter of fact. You can actually see this on the map, but this one feels not as obvious because normally it's like a green quest from like a corpse you would do for like skill points, or you got to kill a boss or something. This one's literally you just kind of click on that thing and that gives you 10%. And again, if you look here, plus 10% is available one more time in Cruel Act 2, aka Act 5. Here I am again in Cruel. Click on this here, 107 to 117 lightning res. So this is actually one I haven't grabbed yet. That's 20% across both the normal and cruel campaign. It's actually highly important to make sure you are on your map doing all of these little skulls. Make sure that any of them that are not highlighted, you're going back and doing, like you can see here, I missed the farmlands, etc. as you progress, because they're either going to give you item drops or important things like resistances, or in the case of like Candlemass, just straight up HP. And HP is hyper important because you can't get on the skill tree in Path of Exile 2. So make sure you're doing all of these and again in the Cruel Act because the bonus is double. If you're having some trouble progressing, an important bit to note is to take runes and put them in sockets. So you see here, like my boots have a socket available. I could put my rune in there and gain resistances, for instance, or on a weapon, I can increase my physical damage or add flat damage. You might be wondering how exactly do you get sockets if your gear doesn't have sockets on them. You get it by having these orbs, these artificial orbs, and you get shards. You need 10 shards to make the orb. You get shards by salvaging equipments that already have sockets in them. So just as an example here, this piece of gear has 2 sockets available. So because it's 2 sockets, it will give me 2 shards in the salvage bench. Use it here. And now I have 2 of the shards towards the orb. If you're wondering why you don't have a salvage bench, you unlock it in Act 1. It's called Rinley's Workshop. You're going to go here to the village, and it is going to be, I think it was in the southern portion of the village. You'll find his tools in the map, and then you'll turn it into him, and then the salvage bench will be unlocked. This is a pretty crucial tool as you're going to need both the runes as well as the sockets. The runes will drop anyway, and so will these orbs to create the sockets. But in order to get shards of it, you're going to want this tool because something you're going to want to do is consistently go to your vendors here, and you can find something like this has a socket, for instance. I could buy this, and then I could salvage it just in order to get shards. I do this in hardcore solo self-found because I desperately need these sockets in order to get resistances. So I will actually check the vendor very commonly for this, as well as equipment that I can use. Like here's another one. So I would go and then I would go to the salvage bench and I would do this. Keep in mind, it is cheaper as you go to the earlier acts. So the cheapest way to actually do this is to go back to like Act 1, the normal version, check the vendors here. Because if I go here and I look at these vendors here, you're going to notice it's 879 gold, and that one's got 2 sockets. Here's 2 more sockets, 2200 gold, but it's a yellow, for instance. And then I would go up to my salvaging bench here, and this would be how I would get, a significant more amount of these shards early on. It's important to note the vendors do reset every time you actually level up, so that's when you can go back to check your vendors. Another question I see very often is, hey, why can't I level up how many skill spots I have here for support gems in my basic attack ability? Well, it's actually tied to the weapon itself. So the better the weapon, the more sockets you have, it will level up as you have, higher level weapons. So you actually just can't level these with sockets, just get, higher level base weapons. Because of this, and because you might have a weapon that's like, lower level technically, but has really good rolls and it's going to last you a while, it might take you a while to get all of the sockets for this. And for the people that are just completely unaware of how to get more sockets in general, I'll just show you a quick example of it. Like, let me pick a skill I've never used. Shield Wall, for instance, okay? So if I look at Shield Wall and I put this in, you only start with 2 sockets for support gems. A lesser Jeweler Orb will give it 1 additional socket. Then you're going to need a greater Jeweler Orb, which will give it 4 total, and then a perfect Jeweler Orb that will do what I did with my Sunder here and max it out in its entirety. If you feel like you're not getting very many of them, don't worry. Me too. They seem to be a very low drop rate. I've only got 1 perfect so far, and I want to say 1 or 2 gray. There's 2. I think only 1 gray there, honestly. All my other, as I look at my abilities here, all my other abilities are only at 3 sockets. So really make sure you're careful with these Jeweler Orbs and where you decide to put them. Don't just use them to test something out. Use them on your primary main abilities. You can also improve the quality of your abilities by using something called a Gem Cutter's Prism. They just buff the drop rate of these, so you should start seeing these show up, and you can put it on an ability in order to improve the quality. You can see my Sunder, for instance, is 17%. I can go ahead and click it onto 20%. This is my primary ability. That's why I'm putting on that one. If you're wondering, well, what does quality actually do? You can hold Alt on your skill gems, and they'll tell you the additional effect, which as far as I can tell on Sunder is literally nothing. I'm assuming this is like they just didn't put the flavor text in there yet to explain it, but it doesn't seem to increase my DPS or literally anything. I'm putting it in there, living on a prayer. So you might want to actually look at the abilities you have and see what the quality buff actually does in order to know where you put your Gem Cutter Prisms on. As far as I can tell, Sunder is literally the only one that doesn't actually say it does anything. None of the other, all the other ones have something that quality actually does. Another small tip would be that on your flasks, if you're struggling with maintaining flask charges during boss fights, what you can do is get the affix here. You can see this gain 0.25 charges per second. You can actually get this on your potions, and this would just gradually refill the potions without having to do anything like get kills, etc. So this one has been very useful if you're lower damage in the campaign and having very long, drawn-out boss fights. Shout out to Empyrean Gaming for this tip, as he originally brought this one up, and I think this is a very good tip. The Reforger is another important piece of equipment. You can put 3 of the same item in there and then reforge these. You're going to notice it won't let me reforge these, and all 3 are sapphire rings. That's because 1 is yellow, 2 are blue. So I have to put in another blue one. Now we have 3 blue ones, and it will reforge another blue ring. And now that this one is reforged, it actually has a max row of 30% to code resistance. So if you have maybe an implicit that you're trying to reroll, this is one way to do it. In your hideout, you can actually edit and move everything. If you didn't already know, by clicking the edit button and going to decorations, you can grab and move things. So if what I want to do is just come in and out from my map, but be able to immediately grab my stash and not have to move much, I could put that there. I could put all my NPCs around here. I could put the salvage bench like right next to it and just make it significantly easier. So make sure you redesign the hideout in the efficiency setup you want. You can reset zones. So if you're in the campaign, you feel like you're too low level or you want to get some equipment or something like that, or even if there's an area you just happen to really like for myself, I actually like the end of Act 2, the Dreadnought, for instance. There's just chock full of a ton of mobs. You can actually control click, and this will open up this menu, which allows you to open a new instance. So if I want to go in here and I farm it out, you can open up new instances by just clicking on this and then clicking, and then you can do a new instance as well. This is brought over from Path of Exile 1. So if you want to do this, you can also do it by respawning at checkpoint, which will reset the area, but just bring you back to a checkpoint. This will allow you to refarm an area over and over again. Okay, this was just some basic tips that just kind of came to my mind and stuff that I constantly have to repeat on stream. You can come by stream if you have a specific question. The link will be down below. I'm live almost all day, every day, because I know life nerd this game at the moment. If you guys want to see a full beginner's guide, I think that will probably be the next video. Let me know the type of questions you want answered on that in the comments down below. Tons of new subscribers, like 20,000 new subscribers this month. Thanks to all of you. Appreciate that immensely. Love you all. See you on the next video.